All right, let's talk Ohio State, Texas now. Our friends at PrizePicks have put out their squares for this game. If you're not playing PrizePicks already, download that app. Use the code Staples when you sign up. Play $5, get $50 instantly. Let's look at Will Howard. 250.5 passing yards. I want to talk about Will Howard, Ari, because I was on with our friends Gabe Eichert and Teddy Lehman, the Oklahoma Breakdown podcast. They do a great job. We were talking semis here, and obviously Oklahoma saw Will Howard a lot when Oklahoma was in the Big 12 and Will Howard was playing for Kansas State. And Gabe and Teddy were talking about how they didn't realize that he could throw the way he's throwing now. And I think, part of it is throwing to Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka, but you and I were there for the Tennessee game. There was a throw in the Tennessee game that he made. It was one of the touchdown passes to Jeremiah Smith. I was like, oh my God, that's one of the most perfect balls I've ever seen. Like, where did that come from?
The Egbuka ball in the Rose Bowl was the best throw he's had all year, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Can I give you just a saucy bonus take for Wendy's real quick?
Sure. We love to double up on the Wendy's and PrizePicks, two of our favorites.
I had a dream last night, and it wasn't a weird dream, but I woke up this morning and it hit me right when I woke up, and I don't know why, but I was like, if Miami would have gotten Jeremiah Smith, would they have won the national title this year?
Their defense still wouldn't have been better. So
I don't think they would have been able to be stopped.
They'd have made a run for sure, but they might have run up against a team that could score with them. That would have been the stumbling block.
I'm just trying to think Restrepo, Ward, Jeremiah.
Miami, Oregon in that scenario. The Miami, Oregon game in that scenario might have ended 65-63.
Yeah. It's just an interesting thought. But the reason why I'm saying this is that I think that Will Howard is who he was supposed to be in the sense of above average player. I don't know if he's a truck or a trailer to keep, I love using that.
Cody Blair, thank you for that analogy.
Yeah, that's actually Daniel Jeremiah's original thought.
Well, thank you, Daniel Jeremiah. Move the sticks.
But I had to call Cody Blair yesterday to make sure what was the origin of that, because I used it in my story about yours on 3 yesterday. But I don't know what you think he is. I would think he's more of a trailer. Personally, I don't know that I feel like Will Howard is the driving force behind Ohio State's offense. I think he's a cog in the wheel.
Was he a truck? Was he a truck in the Penn State game? Because I think he was. That's the one game of this season that I would say he was a truck. Yeah. Because I think without him playing the way he did, I don't think they win the game.
Yeah. I mean, Ohio State went on a 7-minute running drive at the end of that game to ice it out that I can't remember if he carried it or not.
He kept a few. He moved the chains a couple times.
What I'm saying is I would rather have Jeremiah Smith, Emeka Egbuka, and Carnell Tate than Will Howard. The people that he's throwing it to. I think Will Howard, the fact that he can make great throws is an important aspect to this. But he goes only as far as his receivers take him. So that to me is if you want to talk about Ohio State in the same breath in terms of total talent that teams like 2020 Bama had and 2019 LSU had. And I would be very curious, maybe in the offseason we can discuss what you think Mac Jones was. Was Mac Jones a truck or a trailer? I mean, he got taken in the first round of the NFL draft. So he must have been. I mean, that must have been a
that
truck,
receiving core. That receiving core was insane, though. Devontae Smith had maybe the best season we've ever seen a receiver have.
But I feel like it's more of a running Mac Jones situation than it really is a Joe Burrow situation, right? And I think
I think that's a fair comparison. I think that's very fair, and that's fine. Mac Jones won a national title.
Yeah, and I think that Ohio State brought him in with the understanding that, hey, if we do everything that we can do with him at quarterback, it's going to be fine. But it is kind of a bizarre situation for Ohio State to be in, because as well as Will Howard has been playing and throwing the ball, it's also the first time in 10 years that they haven't had a first-round quarterback playing right? I mean, I guess last year they had Kyle McCord, but who knows what that's going to turn into. So,
Syracuse trying to get another year from McCord right now. We'll see what happens.
It is an interesting thing, and this is a comment that comes into it, Andy, here from Jay Weiser. Why is Will Howard projected as a 3rd to 5th round pick despite being 6'4" and having a pretty mid draft class? And I think it is interesting that he has like his size and athleticism is exciting.
Yeah,
but there's not. I mean, I just don't look at him and go, "That's an NFL guy."
Well, I mentioned some beautiful throws, but he doesn't make them consistently enough. Because if he did, there would be no question about who the first quarterback off the board was. But instead, it's going to be Shedeur or Cam Ward because they do make those throws consistently.
Yeah, so, and it's easy to mask when everybody on your team is a first-round draft pick how good you are when you're a distributor. So
now I want to bring up, while we're talking prize picks here, I want to bring up one other person. It's one of our favorite people to watch, Bert Auburn, the Texas kicker. They do not have field goals made square for Bert Auburn, but they do have a kicking points. So that would be field goals plus extra points. 5.5 for Bert Auburn. Ari, how do we feel about Bert Auburn after the Peach Bowl? That was a tough spot. I don't know, because kickers are different mentally. I don't know if the heart-to-heart pep talk from Steve Sarkisian was helpful before the shtoink at the end of regulation. You think Steve Sarkisian leaves Bert Auburn alone? I feel like I'm hitting more than if Steve Sarkisian's like, you know what? I'm going to let Bert cook. He's going to be okay.
It was 5.5 points total. So extra points count?
Extra points and field goals, yeah. Feeling pretty good about that, right?
Yeah, my favorite bet of the entire weekend, if we want to give out well, here, let's go back first to Bert Auburn. You know what I think is crazy?
What's that?
I think it's crazy that these teams spend millions and millions and millions of dollars on coaching staff, facilities, recruiting, resources. And none of these teams have kicking coaches. So it's do you think that Steve Sarkisian will leave him alone? Steve Sarkisian doesn't know anything about kicking. You want to know why?
The problem.
Coaches don't know anything about kicking.
And kickers are weird. Kickers will tell you themselves that they're weird.
Because when you think about it,
you can't motivate them the same way you motivate other football players.
Somebody in my family, my cousin Kyle, was a kicker at Ohio University, and was a punter and a place kicker. And I grew up with this kid, and the clinics, the personal coaches, the hours out there spent on technique. A kicker knows everything in their head.
My guy Brandon Cornblue, who trains kickers, there's not many of those. There are not many people qualified to teach kicking.
And when you get to a certain point as a kicker, you know everything. It's not quarterback where you go work with Quincy Avery all offseason and he's teaching you new you know the steps, you know the pace, you know how you strike the ball. There's 25 they coach themselves, Andy. If you've ever been to a spring practice, which you've been to a million of, have you ever seen a coach instructing a kicker? So when this happens,
listen, when I was a walk-on, I hung out with the long snappers, Ari. So what those people do at practice is so different than anybody else.
They're not even in practice.
Right.
They're at practice, but they're practicing off to the side. So when it's will you leave Bert Auburn alone? He better. What's he gonna do? Tell him to swing better?
That's the thing. When I saw Sark giving him the heart-to-heart before that field goal at the end of regulation, I was like, no, don't do this.
Don't talk to him.
You're icing him worse than Kenny Dillingham ever could.
Just let him go out there and do his process, because 90% of kicking is just mental.
Yeah. And listen, Bert Auburn, I'm not worried about his confidence. You've seen the man's hair.
Yeah.
Anybody who's rocking hair like that is confident.
Oh, yeah.
We don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, you're right.
Bert Auburn's packing so much confidence.
The question is, how did he get enough confidence to get that hair? And I'll let
He's packing all the confidence in the world. So I'm not worried about Bert Auburn's confidence. I am worried about Steve Sarkisian talking to Bert Auburn. And I do want to give a shout out here. I think we may have mentioned this on the show that day, but the two equipment managers from Arizona State, because each team sends an equipment manager to the other side, or it sends equipment managers to the other sideline with a box of balls, so that when the official needs a ball and they're close to that sideline, they can just hand them the ball. Because each team, the teams have different footballs. Each team brings its own footballs. The Arizona State ball girls walking in front of Bert Auburn's practice kicking net as he was addressing the ball. That is devastating mental warfare right there. Like that is savvy veteran moves right there.
Yeah. Yeah. But do you think Texas is going to be scoring a lot of points in this game?
Well, they better, because I don't think they have any other choice. I think they better score a lot of points in this game. If for nothing else than to give their defense a break, because having to cover Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Buka is exhausting, especially when Ohio State is actually throwing to them. And guess what? They're actually throwing to them now. So Bird Auburn 5.5, more or less, you decide. Download that PrizePicks app. Use the code STAPLES. Play $5, get $50 instantly when you sign up using that code STAPLES.